A powerful Ukrainian drone attack on Moscow destroyed 3 Russian factories. A strike on Russians in Crimea left the peninsula without air defense and without electricity. A critical situation on the front and a breakthrough in the defenses. The occupiers raised the tricolor in Pokrovsk and entered Kostiantynivka. Russian inhumans shelled a children's hospital in Kherson. There are injured children. Putin is once again threatening with nuclear weapons, and Russia has tested its most powerful nuclear underwater drone. As revenge for Bucha, a colonel of OMON involved in atrocities in the Kyiv region has been eliminated in Russia. Orban is creating an anti-Ukrainian coalition in Europe, and his loyal dog Szijjártó has arrived in Belarus and gave a speech in Russian. Beijing is blocking the supply of drone components to Ukraine. Putin is creating a new army. Russia has paid 2 billion rubles to recruiters for the war with Ukraine. And in Indonesia, the well-known propagandist Paznyakov was shot. Hello, my name is Katerina Nesterenko, and right now I'll tell you the main news. But first, please like this video and subscribe to our channel so we don't lose each other on YouTube. All night long in Russia, things were exploding, burning and detonating, and by morning they were still smoldering. Such greetings were delivered to Russians by good drones. 3 Russian factories came under attack. The NS Oil refinery in the Ulyanovsk region, the Stavropol and chemical plant in the Stavropol territory.
Another one. Stupid.
Another one, for example, such as this one, for instance, as an example. The number 1, which is the first number.
And it's actually right after the car wash.
Here. Another one is coming. Quiet, quiet now. Please, everyone, stay quiet. All of these items, every single one of them.
All of them are leaders in their industries, so for Russia, these are colossal losses. In addition, there were fires in occupied Crimea, specifically at the Simferopol oil depot. It is actively used to supply the Russian army. The Atan oil depot in Gvardeskoye was also on fire. A Russian Panzer II missile system and 2 enemy radars were also destroyed. And before that, friendly drones attacked Moscow for 3 nights in a row. The mayor of the Russian capital, Sobyanin, reported that hostile air defense allegedly successfully shot down 3 drones heading for Moscow, and of course he kept silent about the consequences. Personally, I believe there should be many more such attacks. Russians only understand force. I really want them to be left without fuel, without air defense systems, and for Flamingo and Tomahawk missiles to terrorize them every night, just as they terrorize Ukrainian cities. Like this video if you feel the same way. Let's send a signal to the universe together. Many of our viewers are watching from Kazakhstan, Moldova, Europe, and even the USA. We Ukrainians are very grateful for your support and proud to have such reasonable viewers. Let us know in the comments below this episode which country you're watching from and whether people there support our fight against the empire of evil. I always enjoy reading your comments. And for now we continue. Now comes the most interesting part. Now about the critical situation at the front. The Russians have raised their tricolor flag on the entrance stele to the city of Pokrovsk. Fierce street fighting is still ongoing in the city. Also, according to data from the Deep State portal, the occupiers have blocked the key highway from Pavlohrad to Pokrovsk. In Pokrovsk, the gray zone has spread to the center and the north. The enemy has advanced to within less than 3 kilometers of Myrnorad. This was reported by the spokesperson for the Vostok military group, Captain Hryhorij Shapoval. According to him, in addition to infantry, the occupiers are using artillery and drones. The Russians are also expanding their sabotage activities, setting up ambushes, mining roads, and attacking UAV units. Unfortunately, the Russians have also entered Kostiantynivka. This was reported by a soldier with the call sign Mokhnoi.
Fighting is already taking place directly within the city limits, specifically in the Santurinivka area. The enemy managed to advance and partially entrench themselves near the tram depot, trying to hold a foothold for further actions in the city districts.
Our forces are doing everything possible, but the enemy has a significant advantage both in manpower and weaponry. Nevertheless, the defense forces are still carrying out successful operations. Near Tokmak, a special operations group blew up the tracks and derailed an occupier's military train. Also, due to severe damage, about 70 meters of railway track have been paralyzed. As a result, 1 locomotive and at least 9 freight cars of the Russian military train did not reach their destination. And by the way, about the Russian tricolor in Pokrovsk. It hung there for half an hour and has already been destroyed. I never cease to admire the courage and heroism of Ukrainian soldiers. They are holding the front and standing up to a huge horde that vastly outnumbers them. That's why I urge you to support the armed forces of Ukraine. And if you can't do so financially, write them words of support in the comments. I know they're watching us. Trump's threats weren't enough for him, so he decided to keep trying to intimidate. Putin once again decided to boast about nuclear weapons. He claimed that Russia had once again tested some new underwater device called Poseidon. You
need to know this. Just yesterday, they conducted another test of yet another highly promising system. This is an unmanned underwater device called Poseidon, which is also equipped with a sophisticated and advanced nuclear power unit. For the first time, we were able to successfully manage not only to launch it from the carrier submarine using the starting engine, but also to successfully activate the nuclear power unit on which the device carefully operated for a certain period of time. This is a huge success.
Of course, he added that there is nothing else like it in the world. And he added that its power allegedly far exceeds that of their most advanced intercontinental missile, Sarmat. Do we believe it? Revenge for Bucha and Irpin. The main intelligence directorate eliminated a colonel of the Russian OMON who was involved in crimes in the Kyiv region during the occupation. Masjerin Venyamin Vladimirovich was a colonel in the Russian police serving in the special unit Obereg, which is a division of the Russian National Guard in the Kemerovo region. He was, until Vinny's car was blown up while he was driving somewhere. It was precisely the Obereg unit that was among those responsible for committing war crimes during the occupation of the Kyiv region. And Budanov's guys definitely won't let scum like that go unpunished.
In any country in the world, people like that will eventually face the punishment they deserve. The deserved punishment for such acts can sometimes mean their elimination. I don't see any other option. That's my personal opinion. I stand by it, and I will put it into practice.
The Russians continued to deliberately strike places where there are children. After hitting a kindergarten in Kharkiv, they didn't stop and struck a children's hospital in Kherson. 9 people were injured, including 3 staff members of the facility. 3 children were also injured. A 9-year-old girl suffered a blast injury and shrapnel wound to her lower leg. The Kremlin doesn't care who it destroys. Military personnel, civilians, or very young children. Inhumans. Like country, like church. In the Russian Orthodox Church, they humiliate the so-called SMO heroes who want to survive in Ukraine. Yes, you heard that right. They humiliate soldiers who want to live, because you're supposed to die. And
as someone with a military background who has been in such situations, I understand that you can't trust everyone. Not everyone is ready to die. Many want to survive, and those people who want to survive can be very dangerous because they might betray everyone. Here, a person who goes to war should probably be humble, should be ready to die himself, but also to save his comrade. But
Pop himself doesn't want to die for Putin, or is that something else? Meanwhile, Hungary continues to sink to the bottom. Hungary's foreign minister, Péter Szijjártó, arrived in Minsk and gave a speech there, speaking in Russian. He says that global security in the world is in a terrible state. That's exactly why he needs to be there.
Dear colleagues, thank you very much for the invitation. It is a great honor for me to be here, and I am truly grateful that you have chosen to invite me for the third time. Your continued trust and recognition are deeply appreciated. Of course, I am aware that my participation in this event will likely attract criticism from some people, but I believe it is important to be present. The current global security situation is extremely serious and concerning, which makes it necessary for me to attend and contribute to these important discussions. I feel a strong sense of responsibility to be here, and I sincerely thank you once again for this opportunity.
Logical. It is Belarus together with Russia that is destroying global security. They are not the main threat to Europe right now, but for some reason he is even happy to be there. People will do anything for gas and oil from the Russian Federation. You could even learn the language for it. In my opinion, with a government like this, Hungary has long since ceased to deserve being part of the European Union. Like this video, if you agree. Meanwhile, Viktor Orban is forming an anti-Ukrainian alliance within the European Union, counting on the participation of his allies, the Slovak and Czech prime ministers, and possibly others who have not yet openly shown their support for Putin. This makes the Hungarian prime minister's visit to Donald Trump all the more significant, where Orban will likely defend the Kremlin's interests.
Viktor Orban's last push. After many years of criticism and partial isolation in the EU, the Hungarian Prime Minister wants to try to regain his influence in European politics.
Hungarians do not want to be in the same European Union as Ukrainians. If you are in a federal system with someone, you share their fate. And Ukraine is a country with a very complicated fate. Why should we share this complicated fate?
Politico writes that Orban is seeking to unite the Czech Republic and Slovakia into a new alliance of skeptics, which will oppose further military and financial aid to Kyiv. According to his advisor Balázs Orban, this bloc should coordinate common positions before EU summits in order to influence decisions concerning Ukraine.
I think this will happen and become increasingly noticeable. It worked well during the migration crisis. How we were able to resist, this is
about relaunching the old Visegrad Four: Hungary, Czechia, Slovakia and Poland. But without Poland. Today, under the leadership of Donald Tusk, Warsaw firmly stands on the side of Ukraine, which means that Orban is left with those who sympathize with all things Russian. Robert Fico and Andrej Babiš. It is these leaders whom he wants to unite into a political bloc within the European Council, in order to stall sanctions against the Kremlin and block decisions on military support for Kyiv.
Only time will tell how realistic the creation of such an anti-Ukrainian coalition is. Today, for the most part, the Czech side consistently takes a pro-Ukrainian stance and supports Ukraine. But as we can clearly see, the situation primarily and most notably in economic terms can directly and significantly influence certain political sentiments, attitudes and perspectives that exist within society in one country or another. Is it in fact possible to influence the European Union's decisions and policies in this particular country in such a way? Yes, it is possible. Will this Visegrad trio significantly influence the decisions of the European Union? For now, the European Union at present appears to be more unified, and its position is still, well, clear and mostly pro-Ukrainian.
At the same time, Orban is making loud statements about a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine, which is supposedly going to be signed in Budapest. He insists that the issue has already been resolved, although he does not mention any specific dates. For Brussels, this sounds like an attempt to seize the initiative and turn Hungary into a mediator that Moscow trusts. And Orban's new move on the international stage is a meeting with US President Donald Trump. This was reported by Hungarian Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó, according to Bloomberg. The key topic of the talks will be the impact of American sanctions on Russian oil. Szijjártó noted that this week Hungary is assessing their legal and physical impact, and if necessary, the Prime Minister will personally discuss the situation in Washington. Viktor Orban himself.
On the one hand, he remains steady and consistent, but on the other hand, right now, at this very moment, he may currently be trying to find certain positions that could boost his electoral ratings. That is, even if we assume that a meeting between former President Donald Trump and President Vladimir Putin actually took place in Budapest, it would still have a symbolic meaning or significance, because we all know about our sadly infamous and much discussed Budapest Memorandum. In fact, it would be a symbolic act. And if at this meeting agreements were actually reached on a ceasefire, on some real diplomacy, on a genuine negotiation process, then Orban would gain a lot of electoral points. He is very upset right now because he really wanted this meeting to take place in Budapest and for it to actually yield results.
All of this is happening against the backdrop of the upcoming Hungarian elections in April 2026 and the country's loss of standing within the European Union. Recent studies show that Hungary ranks among the lowest EU countries in terms of upholding the rule of law, and recent constitutional amendments have intensified both domestic criticism and international discontent.
Viktor Orban, it's important to truly understand that he has been leading the government in Hungary for almost a full 10 years now in a parliamentary republic. It is the prime minister who is the number one political figure. And so, although he has not been the official head of state for quite a long period of time, he nevertheless still remains at the very top of this political hierarchy. His consistent and steady policy towards both Russia and Ukraine strongly suggests that he probably feels quite confident and secure even now. However, on the other hand, recent sociological polls, which are currently being conducted and analyzed in various regions across England in the period leading up to the upcoming parliamentary elections, show and indicate that there is a very high probability that his political party will ultimately lose. In other words, they are trailing behind their main competitor, the opponent, who already has a different, more pro-Ukrainian stance.
What Orban is doing now is an attempt to somehow hold on to power and influence in Europe. Against the backdrop of the upcoming elections in April 2026, Hungary's declining position in the EU and internal criticism, Orban's strategy looks like a last-ditch effort. But experts warn that the risks are high. Only time will tell whether this last push will succeed.
Beijing, it seems, has finally crossed over to the side of evil. As German journalists report, China is increasingly restricting the export of components for drone production to Ukraine, thereby cutting off attempts by the Ukrainian defense industry to import Chinese electronic components through the Baltic countries and Poland. Drones have become the most important weapon in the fight against Russian aggression, and China is well aware of this. Because of this, Ukraine is trying to obtain the necessary drone components indirectly, including from American companies with manufacturing facilities in Europe. And this affects the price. China is a partner of Russia and clearly does not want Russia to lose. But soon, perhaps, everything will change. After all, the White House announced that Trump will meet with Xi Jinping on Thursday morning Eastern Time. According to statements from China, the leaders of China and the US will discuss bilateral relations and issues of mutual interest. What do you think? Will they talk about Putin and the war? Share your opinion in the comments.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
Thank God Ukraine still has many friends, including the Balkan countries. Not China, and they are definitely on our side. Military aid is coming from Zagreb and Kosovo. Athens is preparing to provide planes to Kyiv. We will tell you about the contributions already made and those planned by the countries of the Balkan region to Ukraine's victory.
Recently, Ukraine received a new substantial package of military aid from Croatia. Ukraine and Croatia also agreed on joint production of weaponry. Ukraine's Minister of Defense Denis Shmyhal and Croatia's Minister of Defense Ivan Anušić signed a joint letter of intent to deepen defense industrial cooperation. I thanked Croatia for providing 13 packages of military aid totaling over 200 million euros. We expect that the 14th aid package will be delivered soon, and we anticipate that the 15th package will arrive by the end of this year. During the meeting, we also thoroughly discussed the potential for joint participation in the SAVE mechanism, as well as the possibility of Croatia officially joining the Pearl Initiative in the near future. We are grateful to Denis Shmyhal, the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, for considering this matter. Already at the beginning of next year, the countries will hold a joint industrial forum for defense product manufacturers. Of course, Croatia is most interested in the production of various drones, which have already revolutionized modern warfare. The Croatian side will also assist Ukraine in the matter of demining territories. I noted Croatia's role in the work of the demining coalition. The experience of our friendly country is important in clearing our land. The Croatian company Docking has already delivered 69 demining machines and has started producing spare parts in Ukraine. Denis Shmyhal, Minister of Defense of Ukraine. Greece will very soon supply Ukraine with American-made M110A2 howitzers, 150,000 units of ammunition, and Zuni rockets. This military aid, with a total value of about 199 million euros, will be delivered to Ukraine through the Czech Republic. Greece may also sell part of its Mirage 2000 fighter jets under pressure from other NATO countries. Greece has already purchased 24 more modern Rafale fighter jets from France, and given that technical support for the M2005 fighters will end in 2027, it is looking to get rid of the old ones. However, negotiations with India over the sale of these fighters have reached a deadlock, and other Balkan countries have also found no interested buyers. Greece is negotiating with France to acquire another 6 to 12 Rafale fighter jets, and is seeking a price reduction in exchange for selling some of its Mirage 2000S to Ukraine. Now, Athens is in talks with France to purchase an additional 6 to 12 Rafales and is negotiating a lower price in return for selling part of its Mirage 2000 fleet to Ukraine. Greece currently has 25 of these aircraft in service. The United States is putting pressure on the country to purchase more weapon systems as part of the Priority Needs List program for Ukraine. Therefore, it is only a matter of time before Kyiv buys some of the Mirage 2000S from Athens. Even the partially recognized Republic of Kosovo is helping Ukraine. Pristina has announced the delivery of a new package of military aid to Ukraine. The Balkan country is ready to help as much as it can. The details of the aid are not being disclosed. It is known that it includes mortar shells of various calibers, including 120mm, 60mm, and 81mm, military trucks, armored vehicles, and tactical vehicles. We are determined to support Ukraine in every aspect, in accordance with our conditions and capabilities. Ejip Makedonci, Minister of Defense of Kosovo. The Minister of Defense of Kosovo published a video on social media showing the Kosovo security forces and the British Army training Ukrainian soldiers. Eastern European countries and the Balkans are actively assisting Ukraine with various types of weaponry and by conducting training sessions on their territory. Such support clearly demonstrates their attitude toward the Russian world and Putin. Bring a friend for $500,000. Russia is paying billions to recruiters for the war against Ukraine. The total amount of such payments in 2025 has already exceeded 2 billion rubles. The Saratov region has spent the most money. Their recruiters have earned 400 million rubles. At first, they are heroes, ready to serve their motherland with faith and truth.
The motherland, our beloved home. Respect for others, honor in all actions, dignity in every moment, courage to face challenges, and
Defending the homeland, I know things firsthand.
But as soon as they end up at war, disappointment sets in.
Never go to the special military operation, you'll end up in a no.
the number of people we've lost, it's just, hey.
There are fewer and fewer people in Russia willing to fight.
My head got straightened out pretty quickly. It only took me literally 3 or 4 months to understand the whole essence of the situation, to see how things really are. I'd rather get locked up, go to prison or whatever, but I'm not going there.
To somehow save the situation, Russia decided to bring in recruiters. The opportunity for Russians to make money by sending someone else to war appeared in the summer of 2024.
The situation really is that bad. And in fact, Putin's primary and most pressing task today is to significantly increase the overall amount of cannon fodder, which he simply does not have enough of at the front lines. And for this, such utterly inhumane and morally reprehensible methods are used, where one person informs on their neighbor. There are also truly horrifying and deeply disturbing stories where a wife can turn in her husband, and perhaps the most terrible and heartbreaking, when a mother turns in her son, and get money for it. By
October 2025, every third region had officially introduced payments for recruiters.
They are essentially selling people as actual slaves. This is a new and disturbing kind of slave trade that is flourishing in Russia today. Again, there is unfortunately nothing surprising about this. Exactly the same methods that existed during the era of slavery are thriving in Russia today.
No less than 2 billion rubles have already been spent from regional budgets. Most regions had to use money from their reserve funds for this purpose. And all because there is simply no one left to fight.
Because now everyone understands that, in reality, people are being sent to slaughter. There's an old saying from St. Petersburg, from the days of Bandit Petersburg from the 90s. A coffin has no pockets. And apparently people understand this very well now. What's the point of having millions if you're here? You definitely won't need them anymore.
The leader among recruiters has become the Saratov region. There they spent 400 million rubles from their reserve fund on them. A comparable amount in 2025 was allocated by local authorities for the construction of apartment buildings.
Putin doesn't care about people at all. Putin has been in power for 25 years. Among those years, there were times when Russia was simply awash in oil revenues. And yet, emergency housing still hasn't been resettled. Even now, there are still people in Russia, not many but some, who live in barracks that are falling apart, where the sewage system is worn out and where the electricity can short-circuit all the time. These barracks, for example, are standing without any foundation. People are simply living in appalling conditions. But Putin doesn't care about people.
But that's not all. In regions where the recruitment plan for the war has failed, the authorities are willing to pay 500,000 rubles to get as many residents involved as possible.
There's always the printing press, so they can print as much money as they want. The thing is, when this printed money isn't backed by anything, you can pay it out, but then you just won't be able to buy anything with it in the store. That's true. But for now, people have not yet realized that inflation will eventually become enormous, so they can still be bought off with these payments.
And now for the latest news. The State Duma has passed a law on year-round conscription for military service. Apparently, the recruiters just can't keep up. Or maybe there's simply no one left to recruit.
The federal law was passed unanimously. Congratulations, esteemed colleagues.
Is Russian propagandist Poznyakov done for? The media are reporting that Vladislav Poznyakov, who had lived outside of Russia for a long time, was killed in Indonesia. He was allegedly shot near one of the hotels. It is reported that the man had not been in contact for about a day. However, the Russian embassy in Indonesia has not yet confirmed Poznyakov's death. But many do not believe he is dead and have suggested that this could be an attempt to draw attention to his Telegram channel. This is also the opinion of MP Oleksiy Honcharenko.
Poznyakov was not killed. This clown is staging the story to gain subscribers for his Telegram channel. He does this all the time. Don't fall for it.
And it should be added that this is not the first time information has surfaced about the propagandist's death. In 2020, Russian media, citing an acquaintance of his, reported that he had allegedly been stabbed to death in Turkey. But it later turned out to be a lie. Of course, we would be glad, but we still need to wait. Do you believe in the propagandist's demise? Maybe they actually got to him after all? How do you like our news? Write to us about what we should change to become better. We will definitely take it into account. In the meantime, give this video a like to support what we do. And be sure to subscribe to our channel Ukraine Today so you don't miss the next episodes. See you